Well, we move on to our next panel discussion, and for that I would like to first of all call upon our moderator, which is Ms. Khairul Nisa Sheikh, founder, member and Vice President, North NAREDCO Mahi. Can I request you to kindly come up on stage, please? Can I request Ms. Khairul Nisa Sheikh? Next up, to introduce our panelists, our first panelist for this panel discussion is Mr. Kavindra Talyan, ex-CEO, Atal Incubation Center, Niti Aayog, and member Steering Committee, Ministry of Communication, who was the CEO of Atal Incubation Center in Niti Aayog and has designed and championed several initiatives of Atal Innovation Mission to boost a robust startup ecosystem in the country. Mr. Kavindra Talyan, can we have you on stage, please? Our next panelist is Mr. Ish Anand, CEO and Country Manager, Global Wealth Group, who has 32 years of experience in industry and has been an entrepreneur in 5 continents. Over the last 10 years, he continues to be on the side to be involved in building success stories in the startup domain, and on the other side, build his own venture investment portfolio, which he guides. I would request everyone to kindly give a huge round of applause to all of our panelists who are coming up on stage and set the tone for the panel discussion. Next up, we have Ms. Shobha Regunathan, founder, Build Ed, and founder and chairperson, Wire Net World, who is an entrepreneur, architect, project manager, and business leader, being an alumnus of SPA New Delhi and IIM Bangalore. She has 25 years of experience in the building, construction, and real estate industry in India, having held senior leadership positions in international consulting firms, Cushman & Amp, Wakefield, and Colliers International. Can we have some applause for our panelists, please? Thank you. Next up, we have Dr. Madhu Chandok, Director and Founding Partner, PIP 2020, who is a hospitality specialist with over 37 years of extensive design and project development experience in all phases of planning, design, and construction documentation, project management, and contract administration for a broad range of building types. Next up, we have Ms. Prerna Grover, Head Office Leasing Advisory, North India JLL. Can we have some applause for Ms. Prerna Grover, please? Who has successfully serviced an array of clients managing their complex real estate assignments. With over 17 years of multidisciplinary experience, she is regarded as a seasoned professional and an acknowledged expert in India's real estate domain. And our last panelist, but not the least, is Mr. Sudhanshu Kejriwal, co-founder and managing director, Key Demand, who specializes at forming partnerships and giving long-term solutions to his clients, and believes that a true marketplace needs to have both demand and supply to make it purposeful for its users. Can we have a big round of applause for all of our panelists and our moderator? And now I move on to the moderator to take the discussion forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon and a warm welcome to the last panel. And I see that we have very low audience, maybe lunchtime. Can we actually request people to come inside?
Can I request everybody to kindly come back into the ballroom for this very interesting panel discussion on entrepreneurial mindset, scale, and growth of Indian startup, a very relevant topic in today's times. Can I request everybody to kindly come back into the ballroom and take their seats?
I promise you it's a very, very interesting panel. It's curated such. Gender equality aap log panel mein hi dekh rahe hain. One man, one woman, you know, that's how it's been curated. And also, it has got all the stakeholders which are required for the entrepreneur. Right from policy makers to entrepreneurs to platforms who give wings to the entrepreneurs, to finance funding agencies, who create funding opportunities, and also options for alternate investments. So it's a very, very well curated and also balanced. We talked about gender equality, and I would really like to congratulate the Miss Srimati Sampath Devi ji, who was talking about gender equality, and she was actually stressing upon 50% of gender equality. Well, ma'am, we have complete 50% gender equality on the panel. So good afternoon, my panelists, and I really, really thank you for being a part of this panel, which is a very, very important panel for Mahi, because we facilitate and we give the wings to the entrepreneurs in real estate entrepreneurs. I have with me Mr. Kavindra Talyan, who's the ex-CEO of Atal Incubation Center, Niti Aayog. He's also the member steering committee, Ministry of Communication. Mr. Ish Anand, who's the CEO and country manager of Global Wealth Group, coach, mentor, board member. Shobha Raghunathan, she's a founder and a chairperson of WireNet World. She's a founder of Build Ed, and also she's an MOU partner with NAREDCO Mahi. We have Dr. Madhu Chandok, who's a director and a founding partner and an entrepreneur of PIP 2020. Prerna Grover, she's a senior director and a head of Office Leasing Advisory Gurgaon, co-head Office Leasing Advisory North India, head alternates North India JLL. And Sudhanshu, who's an entrepreneur, and he's flown all the way from Mumbai, and he's the co-founder and managing director of Key Demand. Thank you, and let's begin. Sorry. Kavindraji, coming from your experience of the government and incubation center at Niti Aayog, we have a lot of questions when it comes to India, the role of government, the role of the policy makers. So how do you see, where do you see that India stands when it comes to Indian startups and entrepreneurs and their positioning in respect to the globalized competitive environment?
Thank you. Thank you for asking that question. I think this is very important. Am I audible properly? So, Indian startup ecosystem is the third largest ecosystem on the planet now, and we have these 84,012 as of now, 6th of January in 2023, that 84,012 startups registered DPIIT registered startups, and 108 unicorns basically. Out of these 108 unicorns, 22 unicorns were generated last year only, and I'm very happy to share that out of those 7 unicorns were founded by women. Live space. Yeah, this is very, very important that we give them equal opportunity. So the Indian ecosystem is very robust, and it can really create a huge value in the ecosystem, and it can really become, the driver for national value and as well as the economy. It can really create that kind of GDP. Even itself in agri-tech space, 6,600 crore rupees were invested, and there are 1,000 startups. In Atal Innovation itself, because we have already 68 incubation center across the country, and 28 more are coming. And there are more than 2,700 startups which are incubated in AIM ecosystem only, which are funded by Niti Aayog. There are other ministries also, DST is there, Ministry of Electronics and Technology, Information Technology there, then, Urban Affairs Ministry is also there. So there are number of, so this startup ecosystem is really getting a lot of boost, and the government is really planning that by 2030, we should have incubation center each and every district basically, and especially in aspirational districts. Because as you must have gone through this, this economic survey which was tabled by Finance Minister on 31st January. So she categorically mentioned that the startups, these are the startups in the rural area, 48% of the startups, they are from tier 2, tier 3 and beyond cities. That's an incredible number, staggering number. And that really, reflects the potential of grassroots level, that we can really tap into that kind of ecosystem, and the government is very, very forthcoming. In terms of global positioning, the US has more than around 227,000 startups at the minute. China, around 124,000. In number of unicorns, US has 865, China 124, and we have this 108. So again, we are the third largest ecosystem in terms of number of unicorns. And believe me, in next 5 years, we are going to produce, as the government has decided, that by 2025, we should produce at least 250 unicorns in the country. Profitable.
Thanks, Kavindra. It's good to see. I mean, the country is growing. It's one of the fastest growing economy, and it is investing in building capacity. But in terms of, and since we are a fast growing economy, we most definitely, while we are looking at building capacity, but when it comes to entrepreneurs, what are the policies and the schemes which are available that a lot of entrepreneurs here would also like to benefit from or get the information from? And or where can we get this information, and ease of doing those policies, not only information, but also of implementation of those schemes and policies, which has been one of the largest hindrances that we have seen in the country. So where do we stand in respect of that?
The government has, as I mentioned earlier also, that the government is very forthcoming, and the government has floated a number of policies just to, because in 2016, on 16th of January, the Startup India was founded, and this was incepted. So since then, it's been almost 9 years and 7 years or so. So the government has fund of fund. The government came up with this idea that we should launch this 10,000 crore rupee fund of fund. Then they increased that corpus by 3,500 also. In that, around 7,500 crore rupees have been used, and the government tried a lot that, but because this is all taxpayers' money, so that everybody has to be accountable also. So that's why they incepted the more number of incubation centers, and universities and other private institutions can also become the launch pad for those kind of startups. Because these are the really, they can create that kind of innovation ecosystem which can provide those kind of opportunity for the startups and for early stage venture also. If they have already launched somewhere and they want to use those kind of opportunities or infrastructure there available. Apart from this, so the government came, they set up this national startup award just to create the buzz in the ecosystem. And SETU, the government came up with the SETU scheme so that the startup, the potential startups which are doing fine, they can be exposed to the US-based investors. So the government really created that kind of ecosystem, and believe me, Prime Minister Modi, because I worked very closely with him, he asks for hackathons conducted across the country weekly. He must be reported those number of hackathons regularly to the Prime Minister office. So the government is very, very forthcoming, and equity is also because the government wants to boost the women entrepreneurship also. So government has come up with a number of policies, and I think this is really good. The funding is also through SIDBI and through other means. The government provided all those kind of opportunities so that these startups can be funded from minimum 10 lakh rupees up to 1 crore rupees or 20 crore rupees. So the government really is very, very forthcoming.
Thanks, Kavindra. Shobha, over to you. Considering that we have the government schemes and the policies and a lot of ease of doing policies also from the government, Environet, you focused on women entrepreneurs. That's the large focus. So how do you take up from the government and help the women entrepreneurs in getting access to these schemes and also helping the entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs across India?
So if I may take a little bit of time to explain where Environet came from.
A little crisp.
Yeah, crisp. The time is ticking out there. See, Environet we started about 2-3 years ago, very informally, to bring women together in the real estate sector. One of the primary drivers was we don't see enough women on construction sites where the work is happening, in the boardrooms where the decisions are being made, and in between. So if you look at percentages, we're 50% when we graduate out of college, about 12% in mid-management, 2% at the top. And that's where the focus came from. But while we were on this journey, and personally I have seen as an entrepreneur now for the last 4 years, what we've seen is that women are not exiting the industry, they're just invisible economy. They're there, but they're not at the forefront. As we've seen here, so many women were on the stage today talking, and they were saying, I've been at the background so far, and thanks to Mahi, now we are coming out. I think that is what women have always needed, because women may not be in the corporate houses and not so visible, but women are entrepreneurs. They are running the economy. They can be consultants. They can be running their own companies, and they're everywhere. Today in tech, but previously also in traditional economies like consulting, services, design, even construction materials. So you have women running various firms. And that's where YNET comes in, to answer your question, that we work with, we realized about 30% of our member base was women entrepreneurs. Not traditionally coming under your startup economy, but entrepreneurs all the same. And what they need is greater visibility, and they need to connect. Both of these things are missing today because they're not collaborating enough. So I think platforms like these and events like these really help bringing women out and helping them collaborate. And that's where YNET comes in.
I agree with you, Shobha, that one of the most important aspects for an entrepreneur is collaboration and partnering. If they're looking at profitability and if they're looking at scalability, this is one of the most important aspects for an entrepreneur.
And Khair, if I may add, the white paper that we are putting together in collaboration with Mahi, which we will take work over the next few months, that will be a step in the direction to understand what challenges are being faced by women entrepreneurs, women startup founders, how can we help them, how can we bring them visibility, the right connections with government policies, and I think funding, which is also extremely important.
We have two entrepreneurs here who will be talking about their challenges, but before I actually, talk to the entrepreneurs here, both Madhu and Sudhanshu, I would actually like to ask you that when it comes to women entrepreneurs, what is the difference that you see in Tier 2, women entrepreneurs from Tier 2, Tier 3 and Tier 1? That is the urban cities and the Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. Is there any difference, or it is just in our mind or perception that we have?
No, there definitely is a difference. I've been working with IIMB and with NSR Cell. I'm a product of NSR Cell myself, having been incubated there, and now I've had a chance to mentor a few startups. So I have worked with women from cities as well as from rural Karnataka through their Elevate program. And I have seen the basic difference is in access that women will have in Tier 2 or Tier 3 cities. Access to knowledge, access to policies that the government has, access to finance, access to basic skills that are needed for promoting their companies and for marketing it better. There's absolutely no dearth of ideas. There's no dearth of ambition in the country. But what we need to do is to connect them and give them access, empower them. And I think that's where platforms like this really come up.
Thank you, Shobha. I would like to ask Madhu, tell us about your journey of an entrepreneur, especially with focus on the challenges that you have faced, and what do you see with the government actually and the policy makers taking the country in the right direction? Where do you see the role of a woman entrepreneur?
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to just sum up a little bit my journey. I have been in hospitality, and I was on the corporate world for almost like 30 years when I one day found some holes in the society while working as with the brands and with owners and with contractors and consultants. We found a very big hole, and with the hole was a common understanding, on a project. And to deliver a quality project, we thought that, we should all come together, and 3 partners, we came together. I spearheaded this innovation with these guys, and one is an architect, one is an MEP guy, and myself, and interior designer and an FF&E specialist and a design manager. So we came together trying to give a solution. But I must say, there were many challenges when we started 10 years back. We are 10 years old, or 10 years young is what I would say. So even after having 30 years of experience in the corporate world and heading projects to the tune of almost 30 to 40 hotels from start to finish, I had to prove myself. We had to prove ourselves still, even with that experience, baggage, or the experience knowledge, because we always, whenever we met owners, they used to ask us, you know, what's your company's name? We gave our company's name. We said, what you have done under that company. Okay, we've just started, we've come together. All of us have very good experience. Under one umbrella, 110 years of experience. So 110 years of experience, so we said, okay, then I said, okay, let me do a little bit of research on design management. So that's where I did my thesis, and I am Dr. Madhu Chandok now, and I discovered that it is an ongoing, never-ending education to the stakeholders and your clients that an entrepreneur needs to learn. It's not that you have to always agree. You have to agree or disagree or agree to disagree. So it is very important that the project is taken on the top, or whatever work in whichever field you are, whether it is real estate, whether it is hospitality, whether it is, I also teach. So to my students as well, I tell them that, you know, it's important that you should have a 5-year, 10-year set plan. A lot of them want to become, many of the girls want to become entrepreneurs, but they do not know which direction to go. They'll say, ma'am, I want to open my own restaurant one day, or I want to open my own bakery one day, or we want to open a small resort. So, but it's very important as an entrepreneur to understand the need of what you are wanting to do. If there is a need and you can fill that hole, it might take some time, but you will definitely be able to do. So at what time in your life you are coming together is very important.
Thanks, Madhu. You have actually given us, you know, some of the aspects of, or the strategy that an entrepreneur should actually use to scale regionally as well as internationally. You know, having a business plan, having a complete structured role, and having a focus and an objective. So Danshu, you know, taking from where Madhu has left, real estate in India is going through 360 tech transformation. What are the key strengths, considering that key demand is very, very much into technology?
So I'll try and answer this very, very quickly. So when we're looking at trends coming in, a lot more trends ended up being a gift of COVID. People learned that you can work from home. Face-to-face meetings are not required every time. Time saved in the car is actually very productive. So customers started liking the idea of doing things online. So we used that as our starting point, that going forward, technology is going to be staying with the industry. While VR was coming up, IoT, data analytics, AI, everything was becoming a part of Indian real estate PropTech. We also started noticing that there were a lot of gaps in the industry. Like what Dr. Madhu was saying, that, you know, first you need to find out, is there a need for what you are wanting to do? We realized there was no commercial PropTech in the country. Even though commercial PropTech is probably, I don't want to quote a number, but much larger than the residential sales on an annual basis, the commercial leasing on an annual basis is much larger. Delved more into it, and we actually saw that all the PropTechs in the country were residential. That gave us the idea of, yes, there is a need, there is a gap for that. Then we started talking about how do we fulfill that gap. We started talking about, let's talk about a marketplace. Looked at competition. So idea out here is just to tell you what all did we do. Looked at competition, looked at what were they doing, and we realized a marketplace was something which would ideally fulfill the requirements of every stakeholder. whether it is a developer, a brand who's looking to lease, a bank who's looking to expand, or a realtor who's looking to make brokerage out of that trade. And we realize the marketplace is only complete when it has got both demand and supply on it. So these were the few things we did. We use technology now that I've said what key demand is all about. We use technology to do our business development. We started with 2 cities, Bombay, Pune, to test our technology. We are expanding to 55 cities April 2023 and 200 cities by December 23. The size of our team today is 12 people. This all has been done with a team of 12 people using technology. COVID taught us BD can be done online. You don't need to be in 55 cities.
Excellent. Now, I'll ask a common question to Madhu, Sudhanshu, and even Shobha. As a woman entrepreneur, what are the challenges that you have faced?
As a woman entrepreneur, the challenge, I think the only challenge is that when you are being, say, judged in terms of your ability to do something that you've not done before, I think that was our challenge. People didn't have any question on the ability, but they had a question on my ability to have delivered a successful project. So today, after 10 years, where I stand is, I think still we've done projects and we've reached where we are. But initially, there was a lot of questions asked, and you had to prove yourself, I would say. You have to all over prove yourself. I was very fortunate when I was working at the corporate level and by the various owners and even a brand, where I had very good support from my counterparts who were men, and we were all, in fact, in my own capacity, when I was with the Lalit group for the maximum years, 27 years, I was leading 35 men. So I think that way I had that strength in my own self-belief. But and another point, that challenge that we face is that what was even said by the earlier panelists and is that a woman can pull you down as well. A woman can pull you up, but a woman can pull you down. I don't want to take names, but generally in life, that's also that you have to face and come to terms with. So it's all in your mind and it's all in your strength. And as the founder of the Gulabi Gang, she just said that, if your inner strength, and I always believe we all have 100% in us, and we need to just discover it over a period of time and keep learning. I think keep skilling, keep learning, because technology has been, again, we have to embrace it, whether we like it or not. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Madhu. Sudhanshu, in this context, you've seen for a woman entrepreneur a certain set of challenges which is more personal, like judgment, support, and the other woman, pulling the judgmental, I would say. In your case, as an entrepreneur, what are the same challenges, similar challenges that you face, or they're different?
So I would personally not be aware of the challenges faced by women entrepreneurs. But yes, as an entrepreneur, we also have to go and prove ourselves that this work has been done by us. We are capable of delivering what we are proving, what we have put on a presentation, that we are actually capable. We have to put our background. So that is a question which is answered by us also, posed to us also. Having said that, I'll just say that we've done 3 pan-India tie-ups on key demand. 2 of them are with organizations led by women, right? So from that perspective, as challenges, what we are facing today is getting a team, retaining a team, getting funding in place. I would say penetration in the market. These are the challenges which I think are faced by almost every startup.
Irrespective of the gender.
Irrespective of the gender.
But a woman generally has an additional challenge, which is of the judgment.
I would,
Yeah.
I will not be able to answer that,
Sure.
but I'm telling you, I've tied up with 3 companies to headed by women.
Yeah. Thanks, Sudhanshu. Shobha, considering that you work with a lot of entrepreneurs, Madhu has highlighted that she has, I mean, as a woman entrepreneur, in addition to the challenges of the entrepreneurs faced irrespective of the gender, a woman has to actually face a lot of, she has to constantly prove herself. There's no time, even if she's successful, she has to consistently keep on proving her credentials. What other challenges do you think a woman faces as an entrepreneur?
If I may turn that question a little upside down. Sure. I think the challenges that a woman faces as an entrepreneur are no different from what they face in corporate life. Having transitioned between both, I've seen that. But being an entrepreneur gives you the independence to achieve what you probably cannot within a system. And I think that's liberating, that's very empowering. And you can use it to empower others, or it's our choice. Ultimately, it's a choice. Are we willing to look at the half-empty glass or the half-full glass? And yeah, so that's what I would leave everybody with. Having said that, there is one big challenge in this industry, and that's to do with the industry per se, is the perception, like I was talking to a couple of women here, entrepreneurs themselves, that the industry has this perception. Outside of this room, if you go, how is real estate perceived from a gender perspective makes it very difficult for women to enter. And that is a perception I think collectively we can change, and maybe the burden of that also lies with women. The more women you have in the industry, more you see flourishing, the more that is going to change.
Pertinent point you've actually picked up, Shobha. I would like to ask Ish sir. I mean, I call Ish Anand sir because he's been my mentor, my guru, ever since I have been in India and have been involved in real estate. So I cannot call him anything else but as Ish sir. For me, he's my coach and my guru. And I have seen, sir, you being involved with entrepreneurs, with startups or entrepreneurs, especially in the field of, whether it has been setting them up in India, giving them access to market. We've talked about the challenges that an entrepreneur faces. And you and I have always spoken about this, that while the government is doing best whatever it can with terms of the policies and access to market and access to funds, but there is a huge gap still in the market when it comes to access to money, access to funds for an entrepreneur to scale. In that respect, so what are the opportunities which are available for Indian real estate entrepreneurs?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Khair, and very kind of you. So I'll just say one particular piece. I've been extremely lucky throughout my career to work with some outstanding women business leaders and entrepreneurs. And I had a dubious distinction in the city of Mumbai when I was working for a large real estate firm, that I had an all-women's team working under me. There was not a single man working in that team. And people used to come and ask me, how do you handle them? So my one single answer used to be that, look, whatever I see around me, I think there's a lot more hunger in the women folk. There's a lot more, that aspirational value that they need to make it out there. They understand a lot better. They're a lot more, they have a lot more empathy. They have better relationship building skills. So I think while women folk do face problems in the corporate sector, in the entrepreneurial space, I think there are certain natural inherent qualities that the women folk have, which the men don't. And and vice versa. And, I think that's true of any organization or any business or any society. A lot of it has to do with our cultural background. I think those are barriers that will break slowly and steadily. And Sampatji, who spoke before this, I think, she lights up the room when she speaks. So I think, those are some of the pieces, but having said that, I think women folk are as good as anybody else in any corporate environment or entrepreneurial environment, and they can perform better. They're a lot more hungrier. And when you work as an entrepreneur or as a business leader in the corporate circuit, you need to have that inherent hunger. So I think that's what I will start with. But to answer your question, Khair, I think, there are opportunities from a funding perspective. If you really look at it, in the last few years, I think women business leaders have really broken through. If you look at the stories of Nykaa, Baiju, MobiKwik, and organizations like that, those are all unicorns. Yeah. Who were the faces behind them? Women folk. Yeah. So, is it a myth or a reality that women can't raise money? The way I see it is, I think it's individual capability, it's access to right opportunity to be at the right place at the right time. Globally today, if you really look at it, there are women's focused initiatives right from the private sector to government sectors to foundations. And those initiatives are targeting funding towards women's focused startups, whether it is financial literacy for women or building an enterprise. Even the government of India, when I last really looked at it, I think there are 6 or 7 initiatives which are very, very focused towards women entrepreneurs. Those entrepreneurs can access anything from collateral to collateral-free loans, starting at, if I'm not wrong, I think one of the initiatives is you can get 20 crores if you have a good business plan. I don't know very many initiatives where men can access that kind of funding. So I think, it's a question of education. It's a question of the information being available at the right place at the right time. I think in our country, a lot of the problems that entrepreneurs face, and especially women entrepreneurs, is who will give them the right information. So if we build a system which allows very transparently to share the right information, and women folk know where to go and look for that information, I think a lot of those issues and barriers of access to funding for women folk will disappear. So that's one piece. Second piece is, if you look globally, a lot of the ESG and sustainability-based funds are focusing more on women entrepreneurs. They're focusing broadly on a lot of things, but women entrepreneurs are always given a lot of importance in that. Women's focused accelerators and foundation-based programs across the world. I have a lot of figures, but I know the time's up, so I don't want to get into those figures, but the information is available. I'm going to leave a paper with Khair, and please ask her to, share the information with you. There is plenty and more that can be done by women folk. So, thank you, Khair.
Thank you, sir. So, considering you're the country head of Global Wealth Group, which is a fund of $3 billion US, when it comes to the funds, the access to those funds, which are the key sectors where funding is available or the focus for the international funding agencies?
Sure. So as a business, we work in 2 very clear areas. The first one is real estate. So we work with real estate assets more based on rental generating assets across the world. We operate in 5 continents, so we've got access to supply as well as demand in different places. We've got a very highly tech-enabled platform. So when you're working with money across borders, compliance, regulation, and various other aspects need to be extremely tight. Otherwise, you have a problem. You will fall foul of the law, and you can't afford to do that. So what we've done over the last 8 years is we've mastered that particular aspect of trying to work in a very compliant and in a regulatory manner from a movement of monies across the borders. So the moment you're able to move money across borders in a regulatory and a compliant manner, I think access to funds automatically happens if you have a good project that you can showcase. So our model is an aggregation model. And what we've done is, in the aggregation space, we've democratized it to a level, and we built a system where you can invest as low as $10 in certain assets, but you can also invest $1 million or more in assets. We've segmented it in different ways, but the opportunities exist. There could be 500 people investing in one particular asset in an aggregation model, but there could also be just 20 people investing in a much larger ticket size. So I think both opportunities exist. We also work in the alternative asset space. So we work extensively with startups. We work with green energy. We work with EV. We work with solar. We work with various other organizations, helping them look at digitally aggregating funds across the world. We have a client base that operates in about 68 countries. And getting investment from 68 countries, it's something that if you didn't have technology enabling you, it wouldn't have happened. So I think those are the things that we do as a business. We also have something where we work in a very focused manner with women folk. We have something called the Wealth University, where we build communities. And we build communities to teach people the art of creating wealth for themselves. And when that happens, there are women's focus groups, there are genre-specific groups. So it's a wide variety, but we also look at it from a social perspective. We want to make sure we work in regions in Africa where women folk can't afford very much, or the families can't afford very much. So we've got initiatives like that we do, but it's digitally enabled.
And so that means, so PropTech is a very, very important aspect for your initiatives.
PropTech is huge.
Huge. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. Globally, if you really look at it, the world is becoming borderless. And why is it becoming borderless? It's becoming borderless because you've got digital intervention happening at each stage. Transparency comes into the system when you've got digital interventions happening. You're able to sit here, I can actually sit here and show you all the details about a property, right from legal to due diligence to financials to local geography of a property in New York. Yeah, and you can sit here and I assure you that within 30 seconds, if you like what you see, you can make an investment. So I think that's what PropTech has done. But PropTech is something which is, a huge industry. It's something which showcases property. It's what makes the information transparent. And I think the real estate business across the ages, if you really look at it, has suffered from one particular issue, that is lack of transparency. Yeah. And PropTech is probably the largest feature in what's happened over the last many years to change that perception. Today, people have no hesitation in investing online. There's still a long way to go, and especially India has a lot of catching up to do. But the last numbers that I really looked at, I think the figures actually said that by 2050 or 2060, in India, PropTech will be a $1 trillion business. That's how big it is. There's, I think Sudhanshu mentioned earlier, there's AR, VR, there is 6 different categories that you can really look at. But what does it bring to you? It brings you transparency, it brings you confidence, it brings you an ability to be able to reach to a larger audience and to go global. Because we must understand that in a borderless world, if you don't go global, you're going to have a problem just looking at your domestic space. Although India is a huge market, there's a lot happening here. But as Indians invest abroad, there are people overseas who also want to invest in this country. And I think somebody also mentioned earlier in one of the panels, or, I'm not too sure about that. When money comes from overseas markets into the Indian markets, comes at a cheaper cost. Why? Because we are able to procure and give them better returns than they get in their own markets. So I think that's what PropTech is going to do, and that's what it's done. But I think from a government perspective, there are gray areas which need to be negotiated. And as those areas are negotiated, I think what will happen is you will see this market opening up so much. One example, just to talk about PropTech and global people really looking at it, I think last week itself or earlier on this week, Google invested 5 million in NoBroker. Yeah. So things are moving in the right direction. There's a huge amount of work that's yet to be done. But transparency, movement of money, compliance, regulation, and that in itself is going to drive up volumes. It's going to drive up business. It's going to drive up a lot of aspects. And I think our women folk have a lot to benefit from that. Why? Because digital gives you the opportunity to sit anywhere and do business. And I think sometimes women face that problem. And I think that's one of the key pieces that can push more women into a digital or even a PropTech, if I were to really focus on it, space. And, they could be leaders in that market.
This is for both Sudhanshu and yourself, Isa. Would I be correct in making this statement that when it comes to women entrepreneurs, it is not about the women entrepreneurs being in innovation or having access to funds, but it is all about them as users, which is a challenge? When it comes to using technology, when it comes to using innovation, is that a major challenge for the entrepreneurs that you see?
Yeah, okay, I'll go first. So, I will look at this as a slightly different perspective. Open the Times of India, last 2-3 pages, where every weekend they have a column on innovation, startups, etc. I think there was something last week or the week before that. If you really looked at it, it was in the innovation space. It was 90% women innovators, 10% male. Whether it was IBM or Intel or any of the larger tech-driven companies, the banking and financial services companies. Look at banking and financial services, for example. In the last N number of years, some of the best business leaders in the banking and financial services space have been women entrepreneurs or women business leaders. So one example is, a company called Shiro's. Shiro's as a business has, brought in close to, if I'm not wrong, 15 million women just working digitally, trying to do something from that perspective. So, I will not say women have a challenge from an innovation perspective. What I would say is, I think the culture that we are all brought up in, that restricts us in some way or the other. Women are as well educated or better educated than any of their male counterparts. Yeah, and I always tell my wife this, and I always tell all the women I meet that, if you can manage a home, innovation shouldn't be a problem, because at home you need to innovate on a daily basis. Yeah, you need to keep people happy, you need to keep all the stakeholders in the family happy, and you need to keep all the people around you happy, and at the same time make sure that the job gets done.
But innovation is largely considered to be technology driven, not necessarily innovation, non-technology.
Not necessary. Innovation is not necessarily technology driven. Innovation happens in the day-to-day space. Yeah, and I think technology is an aspect, but education is what drives that. So I think Sudhanshu.
I think I'll just say that innovation does not need to be technology. Innovation is basically nothing but solving a problem. It could be an idea. Technology is the medium. We can use any medium to solve that. So innovation is just coming up with solutions.
Prerna, you bring in a different perspective. You bring a perspective wherein we have the entrepreneurs, but you know, and there is a whole lot of ecosystem which is available for an entrepreneur. But when it comes to the cities of operation where they are going to be operating, or the offices that they are going to be operating, tell us, do you see that there is a special requirement for entrepreneurs that needs to be considered in terms of the location, in terms of the city, and in terms of their office spaces?
So there is really no straight answer to that, and I think it'll be biased if I call out a single city or a state. When you're registering and you're looking at setting up a startup, you have to look at various factors, and that decides which location you should choose in. So while Delhi may have topped in counting the number of registrations of startups last year, and Delhi, Bangalore both kind of compete year on year, but what kind of nature, what's the nature of your work? Do you need to be close to the regulatory bodies? Do you need stable power? Does your business need good infra? What kind of talent do you need? Do you need tech talent? Do you need BFSI talent? Do you need women? All of these factors come into play, and you know, there rightfully should be a location advisory given to the startup to decide which location should be. But yeah, generally speaking, the top 5 places that rank in India are Delhi, Maharashtra, Bangalore, Gujarat, and parts of Hyderabad.
Because of the pairs that they would get,
Yeah,
these are the
yeah.
cities that you would actually recommend. What are the areas to be strengthened while scaling a business, and how could you extend that support to the entrepreneurs?
So, you know, real estate constitutes about 37% of any occupier's expense, and that is quite a lot, which is why it gets a lot of focus. And any scaling business, the first thing that they'll really need is flexibility and agility. That how do they really keep coping up with their needs? You'll keep on adding people, the headcount increases, but you can't keep changing offices, right? So what do we really solution that? And having the right support system from various resources. Today in real estate also, and in the industry, there are so many incubators that will offer you that solution, that you sign up with an incubator and you do get support systems, not from only real estate, but from finance, HR, and other stakeholders. So how we can really handhold is, one, you need a trusted partner to guide you through that journey, because today, as you grow, you could go from a 10, like he rightly said, he's a 12-member team right now, but he won't know when he'll go from a 12 to a 120 as he scales up in operations, but he can't keep changing offices, right? So can he find a right trusted partner to tell him that, yes, this is how you can grow? Can he grow in phased? Can I get you a short-term space, but I won't really move you, but I'll keep expanding. I'll help you keep expanding in that place. So structuring the entire transaction and from a real estate overall cycle, that's what is very important, and that's where we can help.
Prerna, also as an alternate head for North India, JLL, where do you see that new age technology driven and enabled platforms in alternate investing can fuel India's wealth creating boom in real estate?
So I see in alternate asset classes, 3 sectors doing very well and getting a lot of demand, especially for the country: 3 data centers, education, and healthcare. And these are 3 sectors that will largely need greenfield sites. And when we look at greenfield sites, so of course land aggregation and land wherever, in whichever city, like I said, location advisory will help, is definitely going to add wealth. Second, because they are going to be new age and green assets, everybody is going to focus on sustainability. All technology platforms that are focused on AI predictive mechanisms that are helping you either in construction, in planning, in designing, in operations, and are bringing savings on the table will really help. All platforms that also help you on geo-analysis will help. So anything that is, I think, looking at the sustainability angle in the new age technology and bringing in efficiencies, that's really the key focus.
Thank you. We're coming to a close, and before we end this session, I would like to ask each and every panelist, you know, considering who they are representing and what they're representing, that one advice that you would have to offer, if you have to offer one advice to entrepreneurs, what would it be?
Hello, am I audible? Before I close my remarks, I would like to say just for women entrepreneurship, because Sampath Palji, she has really set that kind of context here. So because I was also born in a village near Meerut, and my mother, both parents were illiterate. Before getting into the IIT, my mother used to say that Nari Ninda Mat Karo, Nari Narki Khan, Nari se utpan hue Dhruv Prahlad Saman. So I think this is very important. Kofi Annan also had said that there is no tool more effective for development than women empowerment. So I think this is because women are almost half of the population, though they should be given those kind of opportunities. And as Ishab just mentioned in his remarks earlier, there has been there was a substantial research by Boston Consulting Group. I was part of that group, that report, that every dollar spent on women entrepreneur or the startups founded by women, they generated 76 cents. Whereas the men founded startup, they are generated 39 cents. So they are more organized, they are creating more value in terms of, even though for every startup, men founded startup on an average they received 1 million USD, and women founded startup that received around 770,000 USD. So with less money, they create more impact and more value in the ecosystem. So I think we should really consider. I have worked with many women entrepreneurs as well. In Niti Aayog, Anna Roy, she is the mission director for Women Entrepreneurship Platform. And in VC industry itself, it has been a male-dominated industry. That's a very well established fact. And usually what do they see, that women are less tech, they think inherently that they may not be knowing much of the technology, so they ask all the pitching questions to the male founder, who if he is one there. So that's not the case. They are equal, and I think they are more organized, they can create more value, and because the most successful organizations are the ones which are really founded on the base of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and women are the most beautiful example of that. Thank you.
So now your room is full, eh? And post-lunch you have everyone's attention. So if I may want to leave one thing with everybody, that would be, if you are a decision maker in this room today, my request is, when you go back to your desks, see how you can support women-owned ventures and entrepreneurs. There are plenty in this ecosystem. There are many in real estate. We want to have many more, give them visibility. But it's up to us to encourage and give them opportunities. There are enough policies abroad, unfortunately not so many in India, which give you brownie points for hiring a woman-owned service or a business. But I think that's where our industry needs to move if we have to go past the perceptions and the issues and challenges that we all spoke about today. And to every entrepreneur who's a woman, there's absolutely no challenge which is any different from what you're already facing, so we should go for it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Shobha. I'll just add a very short, crisp one to that. An entrepreneur is an entrepreneur, be it a male or a woman. They face the same problems. The challenges, be it money, be it operational, be it market penetration, be it anything at all. Yeah, I think it's the grit and determination that differentiates an entrepreneur from a corporate employee. So all those people who don't have that grit and that determination, or who don't have the stomach for tough times, yeah, they don't get into entrepreneurship. Yeah. And all women who get into entrepreneurship, if you really look at stats, and there are plenty available, the success rate of women-owned startups is far greater than those run by or founded by menfolk. So I think everybody is there. They're equal. They have the same problems. Women folk are really coming up ahead. Governments are helping. Corporates are also helping. We have some way to go. It's not that we don't have a way to go. We have some way to go. But I think we're getting there. And the more women-owned startups that succeed, the more barriers they will break. Yeah. And it's those barriers that are being broken by a lot of corporate leaders, sitting in this room, and women entrepreneurs sitting in this room. Many on this panel, many in the audience. Yeah. That will showcase how a woman is different, or how a woman can compete in similar environments and still win. So thank you.
So just one thing I would say, whether a woman entrepreneur or a man entrepreneur, if you think your business idea is correct, just do it, right? It will teach you something new every day. There is no Excel sheet which has ever fallen 100% in place. Everybody, real estate industry, we all have underwritten projects on an Excel sheet. I can guarantee none of them have been accurate. They've been good or bad, and they will never be matching that Excel sheet. So being an entrepreneur, if you think your idea is right, just do it, right? It'll teach you something new every day. You will correct it. You should know when to walk away, but just start it, because till the time you don't take the first step, you're never going to start it.
So when I joined back 17 years ago, and I spoke about being in real estate, I think I had a lot of eyebrows looking at me up and going down, and what is a woman doing in real estate? From then to now, and real estate being the second largest contributor to the Indian economy's GDP, we are really creating a lot of jobs. I think as each one of us, from then to now, we need to be brand ambassadors and make real estate as a career of choice, and not as selection out of elimination for most others, as it has historically been. And when you do that, and like Shobha said, we're looking at women empowerment, my only suggestion is that while you do make that choice and you are empowering people, every woman should have a definition of success. That can be very different, and because we've historically been male dominant, there can be situations where you will fall in for peer pressure and get lost. So defining your own success is very important.
I have just 2 points. One, for successful women entrepreneurs, try and be mentors to many, and put a target for your own selves to be mentor for many, so that you could motivate the others to follow your path. And secondly, for the startups and the first-time entrepreneurs, do not fear of failure. It's very important, and that's a learning curve. Do not fear of failure, start up and keep going. And that's something that I have followed through my 4 decades being in the industry, is the charge of the light brigade. It's but to do and die, not to reason why. Thank you.
On this note, I would like you all to thank the panel, this fantastic panel, for sharing their experiences and their thought leaderships. In the end, I would only say that there is a land of opportunity. India is a land of opportunities. We are at the right place at the right time. We are growing. There's a huge lot of opportunities which is available for entrepreneurs in India, especially real estate, which is one of the greatest and the largest contributors to the economy. So thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kare.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you to all the panelists for such an insightful discussion. I would request you to stay back just for a few moments more, as we would like to honor your presence. For that, I would like to call upon first Mr. Ravikant Reddy and Dr. Ananta Raghuvanshi to kindly come up on stage and felicitate our guests. Can I request Mr. Kavindra Talyan, ex-CEO, of Atal Incubation Center kindly to step forward so we can have this opportunity to honor you after the photo op. Can we have a big round of applause for our lovely panelists and our moderator for steering this final discussion so well? Can I request Mr. Kavindra Talyan to kindly step forward? Mr. Talyan, can I request you to step forward? We would like to felicitate you and honor your presence. Thank you so much, sir. Can we have a round of applause, please? I would also request Mr. Reddy and Dr. Ananta to also felicitate Mr. Ish Anand. Sir, can I request you to kindly step forward, please? Dr. Ananta, can you felicitate him also? For Mr. Ish Anand. Can we have a big round of applause for Mr. Anand, please? Thank you. Next up, I would like to request Mr. Rajan Bandelkar and Ms. Chitra Jain to kindly accompany us on stage to felicitate our next guest. And I would request Ms. Shobha Raghunathan to kindly step forward, ma'am.
I know आप लोग शायद खाना खाने के लिए रुके होंगे, तो still I would request all of you to give a standing ovation to all these ladies who have done an excellent work, and I think probably this is their second conclave, but we can't think that they are just 2 years old. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would request you to kindly felicitate Ms. Shobha Raghunathan. Can we have some applause going on, please? Can I also request you to felicitate Dr. Madhu Chandok? Can I request Chitra ma'am and Mr. Rajan to also felicitate Ms. Madhu Chandok, please? Thank you so much. Can I request Ms. Ratan Mala to kindly come up on stage along with Mr. Bharat Agarwal to felicitate our next guests, please? Ms. Ratan Mala and Mr. Bharat Agarwal. Can I request you felicitate Ms. Prerna Grover? Ma'am, if you could step forward. Thank you. Can we have some applause going, please? I know everybody's a little hungry. Thank you. Can I request Mr. Sanjay Dutt to kindly step up on stage, please, to felicitate Mr. Sudhanshu Kejriwal. Can we have a big round of applause? Mr. Sanjay Dutt, can I also request you to felicitate our moderator for this panel discussion, Ms. Khairul Nisa Sheikh. I would request you to kindly felicitate and honor her presence as well. Can we get the mementos for Ms. Khairul Nisa Sheikh? Mr. Sanjay, can I request you to felicitate her as well? Apologies, sorry. I thought I mentioned that, sorry. Music's too loud. And of course, Ms. Ananta to join them on stage. Thank you, ma'am.